Caffer had nowhere to go, spun him around heavily into the barrier. That will be a slow zone for sure. That Ferrari, I wouldn't be surprised if it was out of this race. There you see the remnants of it. Marshall jumping for safety, as well as the bodywork flying. Here again, you see the Ferraris there. The LMP2 comes to the inside. The Ferrari's moving across, and then he just moves straight across and tags the front of him. Two Marshalls on the right-hand side dive for cover, and Caffer was a bit of a bystander in that. There's no reason for the LMP2 to move across to try to take up his own braking position and line on the circuit.
That was a big hit. That was a very, very big hit in the front.
It could be big enough for the car to be out of the race. Caffer's opened the door there, so thankfully, he's okay, as the Marshals are now looking at it, and I'm sure he'll be saying a few rude words about the other chap.
Isn't it strange, though, that...
Here's the LMP2 car, who's continued on without too many issues. I can't see the number of the car, actually.
Trying to now cross... Could it be
TDS
the
car,
28? Yeah, the 28. And in that car is...
Mathieu Vexavier. He's the guy that put it on pole on Wednesday night, the provisional pole position. Races in World Series, very fast driver, moved across into LMP2 this year. But that's one of the things you can't do. You can't move across in the braking area at that point. There's just no way, even if you stay straight, especially with the crown of the road, that it actually drags you quickly in to the car that's on the other side. And now Caffer out of the car. That car is now out of the race. For Risi Competizione, that is a big, big shock. They were fighting with the Ford for the lead of the race last year, out of it this year.
There's two things that I'll bring up. I mean, I don't know whether Duncan can get a word soon, but there's two things I'll bring up. First thing that surprised me in an endurance race, that the driver has got out immediately without kind of looking at it. We saw Rusanov over there trying to work on the car. But the other thing that amazes us is the doors open on that car as well. I'm sure it was. The other thing that amazes me is when they have an accident like that, the first thing is can they get the car going? Because cars are so safe now, so well built. It is kind of, and you as an engineer, when they go off, you know that they're okay because they talk to you, but it's kind of, can you get it going? Not have you hurt your elbow or your knee or anything, isn't it?
Yeah, I think almost all the time we would have said to our drivers, whatever you do, get the car back. If you get it back to us, we can try and fix it. But there probably will have been things that maybe Pierre did try and couldn't get the car started. He may well have broken the suspension that badly that he can't actually drive it back. So it's a shame.
That's it, but he was out of the car after a minute or so. And but yeah, so strong are these cars that... what kind of speed are we at in a GTE car down there, Alan?
It's 190 mile an hour when he moved across and tagged them. You know, it's not the sort of shunt that you would want to have. And it's also, if you think of 190 miles an hour, you know, the forces that are going through that car as it hits the barrier are immense. And so therefore it's not a surprise if that sort of shock and force has gone back into the power steering systems, you know, the chassis itself, never mind the front suspension. That's a very sad looking Risi Ferrari.
Okay, so there's a bit of clearing up to be done. Slow zone going on. And Carl's been warned just to keep to the right and that zone.
Yeah, now that's Vexavier coming up to the incident site, and I'm sure he'll have felt the tap with the Ferrari without a question. And that's the team manager who kind of, you know, they're looking a bit sheepish. I wouldn't be surprised if there was a discussion with the stewards and the race director over this particular one. And you'll look at that car, the Ferrari there, hoping that the car wouldn't have been there, that it would have continued, and it was a lesser incident than it's actually turned out to be.
We have seen drivers in the past, maybe not in endurance racing, but in certain forms of racing, where they kind of stand there when they come back round and they're pointing and things like that. But I was sure on this 28 car, when it came through the final chicane, I thought the right-hand door was slightly open, but at slow speed you can't see, so...
No, I don't think I think it's just more the colour scheme of the car, to be honest, because it's quite a distinctive colour scheme in the way that it looks. And also the way where he hit was on the left rear of his car. Here you see an overhead of that.
and just turns in, tags him with the left rear of the LMP2 on the right front of the Ferrari, spears the Ferrari over, and the P2 car just continues without really knowing very much about it. The car's wiggled, so he's definitely felt it, no questions about it. I would suggest Vic Xavier will be having a penalty for that. And I hate to say deservedly so.
Race drivers don't make any mistakes.
Except that one. Is that an exception to the rule?
Is that an exception to the rule? Yeah, the team there. Okay, so the driver's back. Alan's now. That's the first time I've seen him stuck for words.
No, I've switched the microphone off.
Oh, right, okay.
No, that's not the first time I've seen him stuck for words.
Have you given him a bit of a boost of time? Okay, we're going to hear from the race director.
Incident involving car 82 and the other we will identify is under investigation. This incident is under investigation.
Eduardo Freitas there, the race director, being very, very clear. And in my experience, he's very harsh with these situations. If it's something like that, an unavoidable incident between the Ferrari and Mathieu Vic Xavier, then clearly it will be investigated. And as I said, I think there will be a penalty that will come from that.
I'm sure the driver was back in that car, even if it was just to see what he could do. Pierre seemed to be back in that car, maybe not fully helmeted up, but maybe seeing if you could get it started. What's the rules about fixing a car? Do you have to still keep your crash helmet on?
Yeah, you've got to also be within a certain radius of the car. You can't just walk off. He walked off and he looked about 10, 15 metres away, and that's outside of the boundaries that are allowed by the regulations.
The limit was 10 metres. If it's still the same this year, then he did walk quite far away, so he needs to be careful with that.
So this is battle has changed. I think we've got obviously a little bit lost with obviously the incident there, but now Fassler has got past Piergardi. So the 64 car's past the 51 and up into third. We've got the rule book out in here now. We're going to check that. We'll leave an engineer to do that because they're very good at things like that. So just to give you some updates, Sarrazin is still out front in the number 7 Toyota. The 31 Rebellion leads P2. Johnny Adam in the 97 Aston Martin is leading the Pro category. And the AM category, just as it pops up on our screen as if I preempted it, the AM category is led by the 98 Aston Martin. Okay, we're going to go over to Duncan in the pits. Okay, just needs a few seconds, so that's okay. But Duncan is in the pit lane and probably going to get a reaction to that incident we've just been watching. But when he's ready, we'll go over. But yeah, Sarrazin leads. So it's a 7 car leads P1, the 31 car leads P2. That is the Rebellion. The 7 car's a Toyota, as you know. And the 97 Aston Martin with Johnny Adam on board. Okay, Duncan is ready in the pit lane.
Rick Mayer, well, that was a bit of a disaster there. You're the race engineer for the car. Thankfully, we saw Pierre getting out of the car. What did he say to you on the radio?
Oh, that the LMP car just hit him, and we watched it on TV. They showed the replay several times, and Pierre was holding his line. The guy pulled over to the left to get a better run through Mulsanne, I guess. But, I mean, it was just a amateur error on the LMP's part, and it took us out of the race, unfortunately.
I can see the disappointment draining from you right now.
Yeah, we're normally pretty good in endurance races, and I thought we had a good chance, but it's not the way you want to end, you know, unfortunately. Quite early, too, so.
Yeah, far too early to end a 24-hour race. Unlucky, mate.
Yes, definitely unlucky. Well, I'll come back again, try it again.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, Rick Mayer there, the engineer that worked on that car last year, and that exact car was the one that fought tooth and nail all the way to the end of the race with the Ford, when it was replaying the Ford-Ferrari battle of 1966. And they were hoping that it was going to replay a battle of 1967 again, 50 years later, but not to be this time. Rick Mayer is the son of Teddy Mayer, and all of you historians will know that gentleman.
McLaren.
Exactly.
McLaren. So you obviously, okay. So we've got a slow zone going on while did the barrier
That barrier took a hit.
It took a hit, but did it take a hit enough to maybe... I think it did look a bit out of line.
Okay, I'll put it this way. It took a 180-mile-an-hour hit. That's quite a hit.
Yeah. You'd be a bit bent, wouldn't you, after that? So potentially the slow zone on the straight could take a little while to do. We're not really in a pit stop window. People aren't taking advantage of it. But you were saying about this slow zone, I think it was Giles who was saying about it, slow zones in areas where it's to your advantage. Obviously, the Mulsanne's a really, really fast section where there's a slow zone. Is it coming toward, it's at the end of it, though, isn't it? So it's...
yeah, it's into the first chicane.
So it is in a slower section. It's maybe not as much of an advantage if it was on the main section, so...
As this is the battle for the lead of LMP2 here. And we've got Julian Canal and Heimer Hansen just behind them. So these two cars, the Toyota number 8 Nakajima is going to overtake both of them. But this is the LMP2 lead. It was 0.7 of a second was the distance between the two of them on the last lap. Stretched out a little bit with Canal, who has sort of taken a little bit of an advantage on this one. But Rebellion 1-2. And third place is the Alpine, which is 1 minute and 44 seconds behind. There's the number 35 car that we saw just tapping one of the DC Chan cars as he came into the pit lane earlier on, and as Duncan said, had a change of nose for that.
So that's your classification in P2 just up on the screen now. The 31 Rebellion, 13 Rebellion out front. They got 1 minute and 45 over the third place car, which is the Cinetec Alpine of the 35 car. So they've got a bit of a gap going on there. Tell you someone who has got a nice gap is Johnny Adam, 49, nearly 50 seconds gap. And also the Aston Martin in amateur category, which is Matthias Lauda at the minute. He's got a minute. So Aston Martins are leading by near enough a minute in their two categories, which is pretty good for them. So 42 seconds is the advantage that Sarrazin has over Lotterer. So big gaps at the moment, but there is a spin there.
That was the early on leader of the race.
Tell you what, that reminded me of. About 1 hour into free practice, that reminded me of, because that car did exactly the same in the same place, but went on to the inside. The 50 car.
Yeah, Philippon is in that car. It was leading earlier on, but not now, obviously, and it's quite down the order in the Pro-Am category. There's obviously track limits are not an option for some of these guys, as the Manor car used the circuit, used a bit of the runoff and a little bit more of the runoff areas that came through there in the final part of Carton Corner.
Just watching them go through the LMP2 car overtaking the GTE cars.
Hershey's pushing hard. Hershey's in that Manor car, and he's pushing to try and catch Reges, who's in the 35 Alpine just ahead of him. So the blue car, that car there, which is down at the bottom of the S de la Forêt, and if we look back up, we'll see that's the orange car just sniffing down the inside of the Ferrari, not able to get it done. 3.5 seconds between third and fourth for podium position.
I see Hershey just getting a bit messed up, coming into the slow zone. But he was a bit balked in the corners before.
Yeah, but Hoping Tung right behind him, looking to take advantage as he dived into the slow zone. So that third, fourth, and fifth, all covered by just a rather large blanket. I was going to say a blanket, but a large blanket, shall we say, at this moment in time. But it's getting closer. Hoping Tung obviously coming back there in the mighty 38. As it is now, that was a car that was leading with Oliver Jarvis at the beginning of the race. It disappeared off into lead before it had a starter issue at the first stop and is recovering from there. And since then, it's been Rebellion that's dominated this part in LMP2.
Oh, look at all them. Look at all them. Lena's getting all excited now. Look at all that. That's your kind of thing, isn't it? All that data. You love all that. That's great, because I don't understand it. What's going on there?
They've got the telemetry up there, then track maps, so they can see where all the cars are, and they will probably have their timing screens as well as their run sheets so that they know and can track the race from the beginning to where they are at that point. I wasn't getting that excited. Might have looked up.
Might have looked up. But, I mean, it's fascinating stuff, the amount of data that they have now on these cars. Sarrazin is out front in the 7 Toyota and is 42.19 seconds ahead. 87 laps completed at the moment. 18 hours, 45 minutes to go.
18 hours, 45 minutes to go. So we're talking about probably 11 Formula One Grand Prix to go.
That's quite a lot.
It certainly is.
That's quite a lot, yeah. So into the slow zone. It's in as they head down towards where that accident was. They've cleared the car, I believe. We haven't seen the area for a little while. They've cleared the car for a bit, and I think they're just probably doing some work on the Armco barrier at the minute. So Toyota mechanics all kind of relaxed, all calm. Everything's going to plan for them at the minute. They've had an issue with the door on the number 9 car, but the 7 and 8 car so far running okay. It is Lotterer in second place. Porsche do have a car in there. The number 2 car has had a big problem and lost a couple of hours. So we've got some team radio coming from one of the rebellions. The 31 car, Julien Canal.
3 relais, on pense que les pneus ne tiennent pas, donc c'est très certainement ton dernier relais dans la voiture. Copie comme tu veux. D'accord des écarts de slow zone et de rapide que tu dis? Non, c'est par rapport à ce qu'on a vu sur les trains de Nico et de Bruno.
So down into the slow zone for our leading car in P2. Giles Dawson is back in. Well, he's not left the room. He's just been observing from the back. But what have you made of what have you made of what you've seen in the last half an hour or so?
A little shocked by Mathieu Xavier there, because he did a really fantastic job during the week. A little bit of overexcitement first Le Mans. But yeah, beyond that, there's some fantastic battles going on. I'm shocked by the size of the gaps in Pro and Am. But the Astons do seem to be romping away. But let's see what happens during the night. I think we've got a lot to come here in terms of how the tyres are going to behave during the night. The different tyres and what's going to happen with Dunlop versus Michelin in the GT Pro and GTE Am classes, and whether the Dunlops work during the night. So I think this may have been the plan all along at Aston Martin Racing. Get that big gap while the track temperature's high and then see what happens. It may be that their tyres stay on and they're fine, but they might need that gap if the Michelins come back to them.
It is a big gap, and they've got to be. We were talking about it beforehand, wasn't it? I mean, Johnny Adam is. I'm not sure whether that gap's correct now, but it's a minute or so the gap, and here's the acceleration of the Porsche as it just comes out of that slow zone and up the road. It's a dirt and debris, rubber, flies, all sorts on the windscreen. Into the chicane. See just above, at the top of the screen, you can see, oh, it's just gone off. The rear view mirror, you had a rear view camera of what was kind of going past you at high speed. 23 car in the pits. The Barthez, or Panis Barthez car.
Yeah, Nathaniel Berton bringing that car in. So full service. Berton bringing the car in on 2 laps down on the class leader, so a little way away. Interesting to see how well Canal and Annemeyer Hansen are going when you look at the fact that they're the silvers. It's going to be a battle of the silvers.
Race director.
Information to the pit lane. I have to repair guardrails at the entrance of the chicane. To do that, I need to add to the neutralization of zone 3, I need to add zone 2. As soon as I have the heavy equipment in sector 3, I will liberate sector 2. I will need to neutralize section 2 in order to get heavy equipment to the area of the accident to replace guardrails.
Yeah, the one from the primary impact that he's going to have to replace, but there's extending the slow zone. Now, by extending the slow zone, it makes sense for these guys, if they're anywhere near a stop, to get in and get it done. So I think we're about to have a flurry of activity, and I'm going to be filling out lots of bits of paper.
I've got some paper as well. So, but yeah, I think it's to get something down there, and like a machine, isn't it, to get down there?
Absolutely. They've got large. They've got large excavator that can pull the posts out. So if they damage a post, that's the worst case. They've got to get in there, pull the post out, replace the post, guardrail, and having watched them do it, it's pretty impressive. Puncture there for 61.
Is that not a stuck wheel or something?
We've got Jordan Taylor in the pits with Duncan.
That's a Clearwater racing car. Okay, over to you.
Jordan, we've got a bit of an incident with one of the Ferraris here in a P2 car. Obviously, that puts a slow zone out there. There's going to be barrier repairs, we're hearing, as well. So, what does that make you think of a new race strategy?
Yeah, thankfully I leave that to the engineers, but I think that slow zone forced us kind of to pit early. We've been off sequence all race due to a slow puncture right away. So we're about 30 minutes off everyone else, and I was 2 laps away from pitting, so we just took the time to pit right there when the slow zone came out. So hopefully in the long run that can make up a little bit of time.
What's it like jumping from your DPI car to the GTE car?
It's a lot different. I mean, obviously GT to prototype, there's a big difference in downforce, stability. The platform is a lot stiffer in the prototype. And the tire is probably the biggest difference in Continental to a Michelin, and understanding how to maximize each one. It's a much different driving style, so I've had to adapt to that. But thankfully, I've been here, now a couple of years, and I've got some good teammates that I can compare data with, and wherever I'm losing, they can help me figure it out. And thankfully, I think that run, I got into a good rhythm and really got comfortable.
Yeah, thank you very much. One of the funniest guys on Instagram, I should say that as well. Hilarious. If you have Instagram, follow Jordan Taylor.
Okay, so Duncan's just upped Jordan Taylor's Instagram followers. He's probably got loads anyway. So we saw the trucks there coming down to with new bits of Armco and heavy lifting machinery and things like that. So
the digger will pull the post out, and then they've got another truck with a big pile driver on it to stick the post in before they start bolting the Armco on. And you find that a lot of the Armco on these permanent sections, they end up grinding bolts off, and it's not as simple and straightforward as just simply rattle gun it off and chuck a new guardrail at it. The tyre sheds itself from 61.
It's got a good line. It's just losing that line now.
So that's a right rear. We've seen quite a few left rear punctures so far.
That's the Clearwater racing car, 61 Ferrari. And that happened early on, and in some ways it's got a slight break with the longer slow zone, but looking at the leaderboard, one new tyre just sat out there at the minute, fuel it.
No driver ready. Better that it lost the carcass of the tyre though, Lena, I guess. Less damage that way.
Yeah, for it to come off like that, it hasn't really destroyed too much of the bodywork. Otherwise, this stop could have been much longer for them when they came in. Not just necessarily replacing the tyre, but also repairing quite a bit of the bodywork.
We saw ProDrive earlier with the number 95 car. Didn't look like the diffuser was damaged at all, but they chose to send the car 2 laps later to come in and do the rear bumper. Now, on the GTE cars, for me, that seems like a strange decision, but I guess the aero balance was wrong.
Could have been, or there could have been sensors that were in that area that were taken out, and maybe they needed to replace those to get something working again. Most likely, though, it's going to have been down to probably aero or something flapping around that wasn't particularly comfortable to drive with.
Yeah, different type of failure for those guys at far higher speeds. So they weren't lucky enough to lose the whole carcass of the tyre. So the compound went away, but the carcass stayed with. So they're cleaning up that gravel there that's been dragged on through the various incidents we've now had coming through the first corner. And equally, the guys all having to stay so hard right there. They're actually, looks like they're all going to the inside of the curb. So we might see a few others picking up punctures there.
This car is going slow. The Racing Team Netherlands, Jan Lammers aboard, because they're out of a slow zone there, but he's still being overtaken by GTE cars. The leader is on pit road. The 7 Sarazan car is on pit road. So yeah, so the Lammers car going slowly as well. Not really sure 100% what is wrong with that. So there is the Toyota. windscreen clean, number clean, fuel going in it. What else? What else? Do you have a? Do the mechanics have a set checklist, Lena, or is it just off what the driver, or do they just check everything? Do you advise them on what to check?
Usually you'll have come up with a list of things that you're going to have checked at relative pit stops. So, for example, we just saw them take a tear-off away. There's a set number on the car. You don't keep taking one off every single pit stop. You normally clean the windscreen, then take it off when it's particularly pitted or damaged. Things like cleaning the mirrors, cleaning the headlights, those things, because you can do them whilst you're refueling, you usually always did them, just to make sure that the car's in good condition when it leaves the pits. And it's, at night especially, that's probably quite a big thing to do.
So you see them cleaning the numbers and things like that. Is that a regulation, or is that just a thing that you do?
No, it's you need to make sure that those are working, that they can be seen. There's obviously regulations in place. If your leader lights aren't working and if your actual number panels aren't working, you have to come in and change those or get them fixed, let's say. And the last thing you want is to have to be called in before your actual scheduled pit stop in order to do it. So,
which is what we saw towards the end of the race last year with the Ferrari, and they basically decided they weren't coming in. They weren't going to potentially lose it, and then Ford protested them. They protested Ford, and we all ended up virtually in the same place at the end of it. So the 7 car on its way out, lost its lead pure and simple because of that pit stop. So the number 1 Porsche takes over, but before long that will be back in, because that is the only car that hasn't stopped out of our leading P1 cars. Remember, if you're only just joining us, the number 2 Porsche with Brendan Hartley on board now has been in the garage for 2 hours. Andy Prio getting himself ready and psyched up. It's the 8 car we're on board with here. It's Nakajima on that car on an out lap. There is the 1 car of Lotterer behind the one of the Manners. Remember, it's in the slow zone. There's the 61 Ferrari, only just coming past our commentary box and into the pit lane. The wheel's still on it. So this is the Lammers car going slowly. Oh, that didn't. That's got a puncture, hasn't it? I mean, and then he whacked it over the curbs coming in because he didn't have the full turn on it. So a little bit more damage on the Ferrari. The wheels all smashed and bangled and everything, and up into the air.
Do you think those two things are connected? The left rear damage there, and the right rear on that, and the left front on the Lammers car.
What are you trying to say?
It's Mr. McNish.
I know
he's the type that does this sort of thing. No, it does look distinctly connected, doesn't it?
Might be another driver error.
No. Can't be another driver error.
Of course, us engineers have never made a mistake, so I'll defend him. No, it's...
I tell you what, I'm sticking with the lady and the girl in the room. You can stick in the boys' corner over there.
Just looking to see what nose damage there is, though, because
there was some cabling hanging down behind the front.
I'm not sure that they are connected. I think that people having to run over the inside curb over at the first chicane, because they're having to go all the way inside it. There's going to be a lot of debris and rubbish that's going to be sitting there, and I think people are just picking up punctures there because the guys are actually flagging them to the inside of the curb. So I think to get the equipment there, but I think they need to let the cars run a bit tighter to the heavy equipment under the slow zone and let them run on the track.
Okay, so just out of interest, Sarah, even though Lotterer has another pit stop to do, there's only 1.8 seconds between these two for first and second. It's not really a race, but they are close on track.
Lotterer can go three more, but I don't think Lotterer's going to go 3 more because he needs to just offset what the Toyotas have already done. I think it would be a silly move to carry on now. I think there's nothing to gain from staying out at this stage.
But I mean, will they not try and wait as long as they can with that slow zone?
They can judge it. It depends. They may have information about the Armco repair that we don't. It certainly looks like it's more than 5 minutes work, in which case, yes, they'd complete the stint.
Just try and get as far as you can.
The last thing they want to do is end up losing time to the fact that the guys at Toyota have got the stop out of the way while that slow zone's there.
Well, that's something that Lena pointed out when we saw all that data. In here, we've got 2 monitors with the pictures on and 3 monitors with results. We can flick around against stuff, but you have a lot more. Do you have that kind of information of how long it might take and things like that for those repairs?
I think, if I rightly remember, whilst I was last on the pit wall, we had something like 7 different pieces of software that we were looking at, and that would have been strategy software, telemetry, data, a run sheet, let's say a Skype chat that we were using to communicate between the pit walls and the guys behind us. That's not to include the intercom and the radio. And we, as race engineers at Audi, we used to listen to the race director, so we had a lot of that information already to hand to be able to feed back to the drivers.
So that was Kunimoto in the pits, just checking the door again. They gave that another slam. Giles is pointing someone on personal best. No. I thought we had someone on personal bests. But yeah, lots of data. I mean, is there anyone? You're on the pit wall. The people behind, are they advising you? Because you can't physically watch everything, or are you really trying to watch everything?
You watch a fair number of channels to keep an eye on the health of your car, but you have engine guys that are specifically looking at a lot of different engine parameters, the guys that look at the systems, the hybrid, gearbox, this kind of thing, and they feed back a lot of the detailed information to you about changing settings, what to look out for, things that might be progressing into a problem or not. So you get a lot of feedback from them. You then have to translate that into some language so that the driver can understand.
Something interesting that's just happened, guys. They put Paul Della Lana back into the GTE Am Aston, very clever. They obviously think this is going to be a very long slow zone, so they're getting Paul's hours in. Now they've increased the minimum driver time for these guys to 6 hours. So if you think you're going to lose an hour with a slow zone, you get your driver in who needs
at least
to use
experienced
the time.
Driver in.
The silver, the bronze, depending which class you're in. So ProDrive there doing a fantastic job of spinning it. Same thing's gone. You look into the 90 Aston, so clever thinking there.
The 31 Rebellion here, which was out front. That's a driver change now. Canel getting out of it and Bruno Senna getting in. Running 5th and 6th are our leading drivers in P2. Only 2 places off a podium. There has been a bit of banter amongst us all in the commentary box of can a P2 car make it onto the podium on the end of Sunday. Well, they're in 5th and 6th at the minute. We're still 18 and a half hours to go. It's a full service on this 31 car. Jonathan Hirsch is still in 3rd in P2. Johnny Adam, just to go down the list, is still leading GTE Pro. That is the 97 Aston Martin. And it's, as we've talked about, Paul Della Lana in the 98 Aston Martin, who is out front. His lead's very, very small now, but he's just done a pit stop. So, let's see, but lots of people on outlaps. There's only one car actually in the pits, and that's the Jan Lammers car, which we saw going slowly with some front left puncture and I think a little bit of damage just behind the wheel.
Interesting that Rebellion have chosen to put Bruno Senna into the 31 at this point in time. Going the opposite way to the way that Aston Martin Racing have gone with Dalla Lana, but for me the Aston Martin Racing guys have done it the correct way.
But I mean, all your drivers in that 31 car are pretty handy, or is there still a standout one that you would see?
No, I mean, ultimately in LMP2 you've got your silver driver who you want to use him as best you can during the race, but he's got to do his 6 hours, so they know how long this is going to take. It isn't going to be the work of a moment.
So, whilst we've got this quite big slow zone around the track, you're talking about a silver driver, a bronze driver. For the new people who are just joining us via the app or the world feed or wherever around the world, let's just explain to them what you mean about the silver and the bronze and the platinum and the golds.
Okay, yeah, I mean, every driver gets a driver grading from the FIA, which is aligning your skill level, your results, your speed against a platinum, gold, silver, bronze system. If you're an LMP1 team manufacturer, if you're running in the LMP1 class full stop, you can have as many platinum drivers as you like You know, that's a factory team, paid drivers. LMP2, the intention is that you're having drivers in the cars who are businessmen, gentlemen, coming here to live their dream. You know, a great example of that was Simon Dolan and Harry Ticknell. You know, Simon, a very respectable silver, who towards the end of his time with Jota was doing an absolutely fantastic job of acting like almost a gold, and the results came with that. But you need a silver driver who's going to give you the best that they can possibly alongside your golds and platinums. And then same thing, the pro class in GTE, you can have your platinums and your golds together, and then in the AM class you've got to have your mixtures of bronze, silvers and golds.
Okay, in the pit lane, thank you for that, Giles. In the pit lane is Duncan.
Yeah, thanks for that, Giles. Great as ever. The sun's starting to go down now as we catch up with Pipo Derani. Obviously, the heat in the car's subsiding. Are you enjoying the heat, or is it something that bothers you?
I mean, I don't care right now. It wasn't too bad inside the car. Obviously, the most difficult thing right now is the sun. You know, when it's really the sun shining like this, it's really tough to see through Indy and a few other corners. I had to drive with my visor down, but sometimes it would get foggy a little bit on the side. So I had to open again. So it was a tricky situation right there. But you know, I can't wait to get on to the night. I think it's a pretty special moment to drive at night here in Le Mans. So we're looking good so far.
Yeah, you stole two of my questions there about the sun and the night. But apart from that, how is your Ford car handling the track? Is it going okay?
Yeah, it's going fine. You know, the Astons are really quick as well. We couldn't get past, but I was trying to keep as close as I could. And in fact, I came into the pit one lap earlier, but really close to him, right on his tail. And then we were a bit unfortunate because on the next lap, the yellow came out, which made us lose a lot of time. But, you know, what goes around comes around, and hopefully we can catch back pretty soon.
Thank you very much. Good luck. So a young man with a long... He's got the long vision in there, the long game, isn't he, in his head?
I think they've all got to have the long game in there because they've still got 18 hours, 22 minutes to go. But, yeah, that's it. So here is a duel going on. The graphics are up. We've got Paul Dall'Anna on the left. And he is in a battle with the 84.
Rob Smith and the JMW 84 Ferrari. So into the slow zone, Rob running with him. Both our bronze drivers there in those cars, but interesting, you know, that ProDrive took that opportunity that we've talked about already to put Dall'Anna back in the car through a short stint. So Smith already in. They've made, JMW will make hay while the sun shines with this one. It's closed the gap, and I think Smith is likely to be slightly quicker than Dall'Anna. So if they can get ahead and push on, yes, they still owe us half a stint difference in fuel load, but there's a long way to go, and that's going to play out as the rest of the race goes on. So that might have been a big advantage for the Ferrari guys, but Dall'Anna is getting his hours to tick away now.
So inside the Aston Martin camp, Andy Priaulx has been into the car. He changed it and he came into the car. So that's we saw him getting ready to go. He's now in it. Marcel Fassler still circling around. He's just behind. He's 0.8 of a second behind Priaulx. We've got to remember, it's not half the circuit, but a good third of the circuit is under slow zone for the incident to the 82 Ferrari. If you're only just tuning in, there was a sizable accident where the 82 Ferrari was involved with an incident with the 28 it was a 28 TDS racing car. So it's just getting some barrier repairs on the Mulsanne straight, and everything is sorted there. There's about a third of the circuit to be done. Alan is back in the seat. Lena's taking a break. She's probably going to go and get something to eat. Thank you very much. So she's quite happy now. So
a good old battle here with Priaulx that's in the 67 car, and then right behind Marcel Fassler in the Corvette, and that's after the pit stops. Seen Fassler fighting with Pierre Guidi earlier on with the Ferrari, but now he's right up onto the back after the other pit stop of Priaulx. Priaulx's just taken over from Pipo Derani, and we heard that interview there with Derani, and so this is an outlap for for Prio. Second time in the car, because he started this race. Battle for second.
I just wanted to listen to them go around the corners. That's all. That was why I was being quiet.
The Corvette Thunder, absolutely.
Inside the garage. Quite a dark shot, but there's Ollie Gavin in there, and Ford mechanic and Ganassi mechanic waving away. This is out of the back of the Ford, looking down behind them, and that Corvette coming up right behind there in the braking zones. Trying to see, I can't remember what number it was, the 29 car, is that back out on track now? The LMP2 Holland, Racing Team Netherlands, to give it its correct name. That did come yet. It's back out on track, so we never kind of found out. Duncan maybe did, and I was busy kind of ignoring him potentially, but that came in slowly, but it's back out of the garage and on its way again.
There's the Ford Prio. That's just quite important there, because he's overtaken a slower car, and just as it came into the slow zone, so he's got a little bit of a breathing space, because now Fassler and the Corvette there's one car in between them, and in fact I think as you said, that 27 cars just came back into the pits.
27 into
no, sorry, the
29 was it? The Lammers car, yeah. The jumbo car, which apparently is a supermarket, I heard earlier on in the week. So, yeah, so now we've got a car between these two. I mean, these two are
just a separate battle.
Yeah.
Battles throughout in both classes.
Yeah, Nicky Thiem and Antonio Garcia here.
Duncan, I think, reporting he's got some updates from the pit lane, so let's cross over to Duncan to see what those updates are.
Yeah, 3 things that stand out, guys. One, I went down and spoke to the boss man at Porsche and asked him how the number 2 car was. He just looked at me, gave me a smile and a double thumbs up. So that's good. That was Christian, was it the team principal, Alan?
Yeah.
Also,
yep.
We've got Nelson Piquet Jr. just doing limbering up and beside his 13 car, probably coming down pit lane just now. And thankfully, the third thing is the sun's disappearing a bit, so the temperature's now coming back down to a normal Scottish kind of level, Alan. So three important things there.
So you're talking about Andreas Seidel there from Porsche with the double thumbs up. He was the man you interviewed earlier on who told us that the hybrid failure, and that was something they were surprised about, and they weren't really sure about the other car that's on it. And the other thing, yes, it's now down to a nice warm 28 degrees or something out there in the pit lane.
The big difference between Le Mans and Scotland at this temperature is there's no midges out there at the minute, which obviously you would have.
Well, that's where you're wrong, because when you buzz out to the back of the circuit up from the second chicane, that's where there's a little lake on the right-hand side, and it's about this time, and from on to about 11 o'clock where all these wee midges come out, and they just, boom, hit the windscreen, and that's it. You've got a clean screen, and then suddenly you've got a dirty windscreen very soon.
News from the pit lane. I think they're expecting at Aston Martin Pro Drive the 97, the leader of the Pro category, Johnny Adam, potentially heading towards the pits. There he is. He's just gone past us, and a driver change in the 13 car. Piquet Jr. climbing board. We just Duncan was saying that he was warming up, doing his exercises, and getting himself. So it's a Senna Piquet duel at the front of P2.
Yep. And then Hirschi in third. As Piquet drops through the S's into that slow zone at Tetra Rouge. To be honest with you, I'm slightly surprised there's been no confirmation of after the investigation we heard about the collision between Vaxavier and Kaffer, the Vaxavier in the LMP2 car and Kaffer in the Ferrari, into this area here on the left-hand side that we're coming up on where they're repairing the barrier. Because to me it was a reasonable slam dunk.
Yeah.
And so I would have thought that with Eduardo Freitas already announcing on the radio straight away before they did anything else that it was being investigated, that we haven't had any more info about it.
Some gamesmanship going on there, I think, a little bit, as if the Corvette was just trying to push wide the Aston Martin, and the Aston Martin got great acceleration there.
Yeah, the Aston's just blasted past coming out the second chicane. He was in the right position, but he certainly jumped past.
So I think that's Johnny Adam coming out of the number 97 car that's leading this class.
And Duncan is with him. Let's get a word with the driver who's just stepped out, the leading Pro car.
Yeah, leading GTE Pro. Johnny Adam brings the 97 car in for a pit stop. First of all, how was the stint for you?
Yeah, it was clean, yeah, and traffic was good. Quite a few slow zones there for the last sort of half an hour, but yeah, normal procedure, but car felt really good. The ambience dropping a little bit and the car feels better every lap, so we're in a good place at the moment.
Were you concerned about picking up a puncture, the way the guys were directing you away from the crash zone down at the chicane?
Yeah, there's a lot of debris, so you just have to be mindful of the amount of carbon that's on the road from the LMP2 cars, but yeah, overall, so good so far.
Yeah, currently leading, Johnny, a good feeling?
Yeah, really good, you know, really special to lead at this stage, but still 18 hours to go, a long way to go, but yeah, everything going to plan just now.
Okay, go get some fluids, boy, well done.
Thank you.
Thank you, Duncan. So this battle continues here. This is a battle that Nicky team doesn't really want to be in, but that puncture kind of put them way down. But as you said before, you just don't give up, do you? You just don't give up. You've got to keep going and keep battling through. So still we have those slow zones for the damage to the barrier. But just going back 2 or 3 minutes, you were saying you were surprised you hadn't heard anything about a kind of reprimand or a penalty for the car that caused the incident. I don't know whether you watch football or anything like that, but whenever there's an incident in football, the other players are trying to get the other player booked or something like that. Would the team or the driver, would they be really pushing the organisers for some penalties, or did they just leave it to the organisers to sort out?
Well, let's go to one part about it. There is a process, and an FIA process that has to be followed, and that's on a time code basis. And one of them is that it's got to go through a process of potentially interviewing both the drivers. In that particular situation, I think it was reasonably clear what happened. And unless there was a steering issue in the LMP2 car, there's no reason to turn left at that point and trying to take up his own braking area where there's a Ferrari. Now Nicky team has dropped into the pits, and then, you know, the chances are they want to actually interview Vaxavi, who's still in the car. And so therefore there is that point that Vaxavi is in the car, Caffer's on the other side of France because it was on the other side of the circuit, and to get back, so that's a potential thing. But I would have anticipated that it was a little bit easier to, or quite straightforward to actually see it, certainly from the camera angles that we saw. However, the stewards are the 3 stewards that will make the decision if there is a penalty to be applied in either direction.
Okay, so it's a bit more professional than football, where they're all trying to get each other sent off the pitch. It's there is that.
Oh, the team. Sorry to interrupt you there, but the team do have a direct link up to the race director, and in terms of the send information up to the race director, there's no question about it. And I'd be surprised, considering the Ferrari is out of the race, that they wouldn't have had a comment about it. But ultimately, it's not going to change their day, because they are out of the race, and they've got to wait another 365 days before they get another chance at this one.
Okay, we've still got Nicky team aboard that car, but that again, that's what you just said there, takes you another 364 days. There is a World Championship in the World Sports Car Championship, and we've talked about it before. Toby mentioned, I can't remember to which one of you, Peter or you, Alan, about Le Mans or the World Championship, and which one would you want to take? And Le Mans seems to be it, and then if you can win the World Championship at the end of it, that's great. But so much effort goes into it, into winning Le Mans, competing at Le Mans. How frustrating is it to get taken out by somebody else?
Well, massively. There's no question about it. When you, even if it's not like that, even if it's like the Collis car, who had the problem in the first lap and stopped after 7 laps. You know, at the end of the day, everybody's put in a lot of energy, a lot of investment of time, a lot of money into being here, and so it is a massive disappointment. Sometimes it's not a surprise. If you've had troubles in testing, then, you know, it isn't a surprise if you have a trouble in a race, and the same thing recurs. What is disappointing is in the situation like in car number 2 in the Porsche, where they have a problem that they haven't had before. But that's Le Mans. Welcome to Le Mans. It does bring in problems that you don't normally have.
That's it. So I think Duncan's got something going on in the pits. What have you got, Duncan? He's disappeared. Okay, Tony Kanaan, we'll go over to Duncan.
Tony Kanaan, TK just stepped out of the car. First of all, you were a late addition to this, taking over the drive. Have you settled in quite well to the Ford?
Yeah, I mean, obviously a very odd circumstance to take Seb's place, but you know, with the accident, he got hurt. Somebody had to do it. I knew the car already. I had done the 24 hours of Daytona, so that's the only thing I really knew coming into Le Mans. I didn't know the track. I didn't know anything, so it's my first time here. I'm having a blast. Obviously, a big responsibility with the 4GT. We came back here. My car came back here as the defending champion, so a lot of pressure, a lot of responsibility, but so far so good.
Yeah, but for not knowing the track, you were quick, very quick, in just 2 laps.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what I'm supposed to do. That's Chip says that's what I get paid to do. So, you know, I love the car. The car really suits my driving style. So it's kind of like it comes, I hate to say it, but it comes easy. You know, and when you have a good car in your hand, the lap time is just a matter of time. So I'm extremely pleased and happy to be here.
We've got a mutual friend called Dario Franchitti who told me to come and speak to you, but he warned me about you. He gave me all sorts of things to warn about you, but, you know, a good guy to have on board, helps you a lot in America.
You know, I cannot say everything I want to say about Dario in the radio, so, you know, or on TV, but, you know, he's a great, dear good friend of mine. I'm glad he gave you a heads up. I love him. Unfortunately, he's not here this year. He was here last year, but, you know, obviously, I actually owe Dario a lot in my career. He helped me out quite a bit when he signed with Andretti Green at the time and brought me into the team. And he's my driver coach here in IndyCar, so I love him. So we're missing him here today for sure.
I can hear Alan McNish sniggering and agreeing with you about the Dario Franchitti comments. TK, good luck for the rest of the race.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Duncan. Alan, you want to pick up on that?
No. I think we'd better leave that to discussion later on off air in terms of that. But Tony Kanaan, he did the Daytona 24 hours, got straight into the car at Daytona and was blindingly quick there as well. So as he said, it really does suit his style, and he can understand that it fits. And that's a fantastic feeling for a driver when suddenly it feels like a hand in a glove. As we've got the 64 Corvette, Marcel Fassler coming in. He will jump out the car. Oliver Gavin will jump into that Corvette, and Fassler bumps into the camera guy. That's up close and personal. Take the steering wheel off. That's not a normal thing to take the steering
wheel goes up in that car, yeah.
We looked at that in Audi because it was such a small cockpit to get in, but it wasn't a design philosophy our chief designer really wanted to follow.
Well, with the regulations in GTE now, we're not allowed to move the seat, so unfortunately it's just about the only way to do it, having the retractable, movable, and the pedal box not moving either.
Mechanics practice. We could hear them late into the night, all week, practicing pit stops. And the nut guns going off each evening. So that was in 3rd place coming in, that car. It's just dropped down to 4th place as it heads back out onto track. The gap between the P2 first and second is 50.3 seconds. Senna out front in the Rebellion. Darren Turner now aboard the 97 Aston Martin, who is leading the Pro category. And he's 26 seconds behind, in front of Andy Prio, so it's a Brit 1-2 at the minute out front in the driver stakes of the Pro category. In AM, it is still Paul Dalla Lana, but 1.8 seconds ahead of the Ferrari, the 84 Ferrari that is out there with Rob Smith on board. Remember, a third of the circuit, I think. Oh no, everything's gone now. Everything's gone.
Yeah, we're clear.
We're clear again. We're full racing again.
Yeah, the slow zone in zone 4 was to get the vehicles off the circuit, so that's done. And now Rob Smith trying to pull in Paul Dalla Lana in the AM class.
Car 49 has a 20-second stop and go. That was speeding in the pit lane.
That was reported about an hour ago, so don't blame the driver that's in it now.
Okay, well, it's the Graf car, so how come that's only just coming up then? If you knew about an hour ago, reported an hour ago, we can't even say don't blame the driver who's in it now, but anyway.
Miro Kanopka on board now, so the boss is on board now, so definitely don't blame him.
Yeah, and I've got it wrong. It wasn't the
Graf car. It's the ARC Bratislava car, exactly.
Yeah, I got it wrong. It wasn't the 40. I looked at the 40 and I should have looked at the
So far they've done an alternator belt and an alternator, and then found the broken wire they've been chasing all week. So they're way down the order.
I've got another question for Alan McNish on the story of kind of like all the work and effort that goes in. When I had lunch with Peter Dumbreck, we were talking about this, and the Collins car stopped after 7 laps. Last year, the Toyota stopped on the last lap. Where would you, if you're going to retire, would you prefer to retire on the 7th lap or the last lap? I mean, I think it's quite obvious, but...
Yes, it is. As the 37 car spun off into the gravel trap. We'll come back to that in a second. That's Cheng that has gone off in the DC Chang car. That's at Porsche, I think, as he came out. It looks like he's had a little bit of an incident with a Toyota there. Looks like Toyota
was on his out lap.
Yeah, Nakajima's in that Toyota. So it would be good to see that as a replay once more to see, but it looked like the Toyota was on the outside, maybe trying to avoid Cheng as he spun there coming out to the karting corner. Oh, lots of dust, and that's
a lock-up.
That was a big lock-up then, wasn't it? I did think it was someone running through the gravel, but I think it was a lock-up.
Yeah.
Worried it's that Ford GT that's running down there.
It could also be there's a golf club there, and it's got a very dusty sort of area, so it could have been a car that was actually off track, as in not a race car, but a road car that was in the golf. That used to be the actual signalling area for Le Mans, so you would do half a lap and then they'd have the signalling area, and it was only in the 80s where that changed. The 2 Porsches line astern here.
Was that big because radio communication wasn't as good that you...
Well, there's no radios.
So, yeah, that was your only kind of... You had 2 points. You had pit straight and then out there, yeah.
And there was no radios in those days. I think radio really only came in about, as in pits-to-car radio, in early 90s. You know, there was no data back then. There's no data when I started racing. You had a tacho that you used to, if you over-revved the engine, you'd press a button and it reset to 0. So if you did over-rev the engine, you would sort of basically, in the in-lap, you know, reset it and then blip it up a little bit on the clutch so that you didn't get a row. I've never done that, by the way.
Oh, no.
But
that was in the days when...
That's what Peter Dumbreck told me.
The days when Alan was paying for his own racing and somebody else's engine. That's what that is.
I've read stories about people, and yeah, I remember when I did a year at Jim Russell Racing in a saloon car, and I was up against an American who was... We used to battle quite hard, and I always used to wonder why he kind of disappeared in the cockpit coming back into the pit lane, because he was basically resetting the rev counter because he'd maybe gone over the revs. This is stuck as well.
It's well and truly beached. I think they're going to need to get a Manitou to that. It didn't seem that them pushing.
Here we see it again. He's gone round the outside of another P2 car, and yeah, he didn't quite get it done, spun, and it was the Toyota that was avoiding round the outside. So that Toyota was very fortunate. He was able to get away and round. He basically 2 squeezed into 1. It happens. But he needed to be a little bit further alongside to ensure the other car was totally aware of where he was.